Good afternoon, everyone. And today I want to share about the application of FPSC for Taiwanese company, and especially the case of Google. So, in order to raise funds, company would choose to go public, and typically they'll go public through IPO, the initial public offering. But nowadays, especially after 2020s, more and more companies are considering SPAC for an alternative approach than IPO to go public. And SPAC is very popular in US for in high-tech field. And Google, the Taiwanese company, a Taiwanese high-tech unicorn, just went public in the US on April 5th, 2020. And it became the first ever Taiwanese tech company to go public through SPAC. So what is SPAC? We can take a look at the picture here. Okay. So typical an SPAC can be divided into two phases. So the first phase is the company has to go public. And after the company go public, they will have to find a target company to make an acquisition within a predefined date. So usually the SPAC company with the target company, they will negotiate way before the SPAC company go public to make sure both companies' shareholder will agree with this deal. So it's unlikely that the acquisition will fail. But if the acquisition fails, the SPAC company will have to find another target company, or else it will have to if it did not find a target company with a predefined date, you have to you will not get listed on the open market. So here's the comparison between the traditional IPO and the SPAC. As you can see, the application duration of traditional IPO is much longer than the SPAC. So if a company wants to find a quicker way to go public, it will choose SPAC rather than the traditional IPO. And because of the nature of SPAC, the investor of the SPAC tend to be more not be very conservative. So if the company chooses to go public through SPAC, it will get a much higher market value. And the regulation for the traditional IPO is stricter, but for SPAC it's looser. But in fact, the SEC, the US SEC is now putting a stricter regulation for SPAC nowadays. So why do Google choose to go public in the US? There are three reasons. The first one is Taiwan has no SPAC, but although Taiwan has no SPAC, the Taiwanese government actually do a lot of things to trying to have Google go public in Taiwan. Like in 2018, the FSC they tailored an act for Taiwanese high-tech unicorns like Google. And in 2019, FSC even brought cornerstone investor system into a company and trying to help Google to raise more funds when it goes profit. But however, the investor in Taiwan is often more conservative toward the high-tech field because of its unstability. So, because Google wants to raise more funds, it has a need of cash assets. So, Google would choose to go public in the US. And also, Google wants to expand its overseas market. If it goes public in Taiwan, it may not fulfill the needs. And also the Taiwanese electric scooter market is now full. So if Google choose to go public in Taiwan, it will not gain any profit, more profit from the Taiwanese company, the Taiwanese market. So the conclusion is that under the COVID-19 pandemic, SPSE is becoming more popular for many companies. But nowadays, SEC is now putting a stricter regulation to those companies wants to go public through SPSE. So we might see fewer companies to go public through SPSE in the future. But there are also some regions now now launching the SPSE system, like Hong Kong and Singapore, and they are trying to attract more companies to go to their region to go public in their country. And we might see some Taiwanese companies to rather choose to go public in the US and go public in Hong Kong or Singapore. Okay. Thank you.
Right. So thank you very much. Yeah, I think also Andy's topic is also one of the trendy topics again in the investment industry. So again, feel free to propose any questions or make comments. Can we start with anyone? Right. So okay, I can maybe start with a question. So I think Andy, I like what you said about for example, the limits in regulations, also the limit of market size in Taiwan. But I wonder, so since it's trading day in the U.S., I wonder, for example, how does the stock price of Gogoro has been since its own first day?
So on April 5th, the stock price for Google is like 14 or 15 US dollars per share, but now it has dropped to 5 US dollars per share. So but I think the main point is like Google can get assets from merge with its target company, and because it wants to expand its overseas market, so it is its main goal. So expanding the overseas market needs cash assets. So I think maybe Google do not care much about the share price.
Let's see. So I think so. Right now, I think so. How will you evaluate its own funding project so far? Do you consider that to be a success?
Yes, I would say it's a success because the most emergent things for Google is to find cash. Yeah, because if you look at the financial reports of Google's these recent years, you can see that Google's cash flow is negative, so it needs to find cash in short time. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. Yeah, I think the answer is very clear. I think we have Amy. So, you have any question or comment?
I think you have answered part of my questions. My question is like why Google cannot expand its overseas business if it choose to go public in Taiwan. And I think that you mentioned it's because they will be lack of the capital, right? If they public in Taiwan. Okay, thank you.
And also, like Taiwanese government is now striking a balance between gasoline and electric vehicle. So Google is now facing a higher competitor in Taiwan. So they want to expand its overseas market. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's good. So, can we have another question or comment? Okay, we have a question or comment from Andrea.
Do you think that is there any disadvantages for Google to using specs, or maybe what are some disadvantages of using spec to raise funding?
Yes, there are some disadvantage. Like investor might overrate the actual value of a company. Like Google Google's its stock price, like I just mentioned, dropped from 15 to $5 per share. So it's clear that the Google's market value is overrated. So this is one of the disadvantage for spec companies. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. I think this is another really important question. Okay, maybe just one suggestion for Andy here. Yeah, I think just like how you responded to our question here, I think you mentioned you try to compare, for example, the IPO here in Taiwan and also using the specs in the US. So maybe you can still try to go into the comparison. I think you mentioned that. So, for example, the funding pool, right, will vary greatly in size. So you can maybe try to give us a few numbers. Right? For example, if they go IPO in Taiwan, what's the expected funding pool? And also now, as they work with the SPAC, so what's the funding pool right now they enjoy? So you can maybe try to use the numbers just to demonstrate the difference between the two options. Also, we know Gogoro has also maybe gone through some maybe personnel change recently, right? Some of the founding members are leaving the company, right, due to maybe clash in core values. I wonder whether this will affect the company in the long run. So maybe that's also something you can briefly discuss. Right, so if there are no further questions, then let's give Andy a big hand. So thank you very much for the presentation. All right, okay, very good. So now we're going to move on